Hey there, my name is Frøg, and today I'm joined by the one and only TOBIZ, coach of MOUZ NXT. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy to be speaking with you and get to pick your brain a little. So before we hop into this season, I just really want to quickly glance over last season. I mean, you guys kind of went out of the tournament early. Was that like a surprise to you guys? I imagine so. And was it also maybe what kind of prompted all the roster changes that we saw?
I think we can write off last season as a big failure from my point of view. There were going some things on behind the scenes, which also made it very hard for us to perform. Suddenly in the middle of our vacation, we had to figure out, okay, we had to cut off our vacation short to play, which frustrated some people. Which I completely understand. It also frustrated me. And it was just like a season that just had to be finished. I think having this experience also from the previous seasons, players were showing an absolute all-time high level. And I think was maybe 1-2 seasons too many for some of the players, which you all also can see now. 2 of them are playing the RMR. We have MHL at the endpoint, and then Shine is still looking for a team. So that season was 1 too many.
And now I guess it's basically a completely new MOUZ other than for Jimpat returning. Can you talk a bit about like how you assemble creating a roster from scratch that way? What was like the methodology behind it?
I think when I picked up Jimmy, I have always been looking at young players in the Nordic regions, like who's good, who's doing well in the open qualifiers, and Jimpat has always been like standing out on his team, like playing really, really well. And despite his team not losing, like he's putting up a solid and almost too good of a performance. So he's always been on my radar for quite some time. I also like competed against him when he was like 13, and he would like destroy me. So I was like, okay, we need to get this guy here. And I also think like he's one of the best players in Finland. The scouting process is like I'm picking the players, and we have a great coaching staff behind MOUZ as an organization. So I give my input, and then Cyclone can give his input, and then we look back and forward and look at the pros and cons at the players and how they're behaving online, how they're performing on their respectively teams. And then basically I'm watching a lot of demos, seeing what role they can fill out. And for this team, I think it was fairly easy to find the 3 guys we have now, Kristen, QQ, and Nexus, because they all showed some glimpse of talent. I think Kristen is one of the most promising players coming out of Denmark right now as an IGL. Even though he's like just turned 16, he has so much to offer, and is really mature, which is something that's really rare these days for young players. Then we have QQ, who's always been playing on international teams. I always wanted to try him out for my Danish teams when I was playing, but it just didn't fit into our schedules, and so. But he's always like been playing in the international teams because he liked it more. So he's like a really good teammate, has a lot of ideas, and is really good at giving constructive criticism. And overall, just a nice guy to have in your team. And I think you need to have a person like QQ in your team. And then we have Nexus, who's coming from Belgium. Actually asked QQ about him because I knew they played together in Lowland Lions, I think it was.
Yeah.
Because I saw Nexus beat some good teams in the open qualifiers for the RMR. Yeah, I think it was the RMR, where he beat Apex, for example, where he stood out. So of course that caught my curiosity. So I watched a lot of demos of him, asked QQ about him, and he just seemed like the player that you want to work with. And it has been showing, like in practice, he's really thoughtful, thinks a lot about the game, handles ideas and criticism very well, and overall just the really, really good guy. And I think like he will become really, really good in the future with the support that MOUZ can give him.
Oh,
and then currently we're trialing Adex, who's from Romania. He's been playing on 00 Prospects Academy team, who also have been competing in the WePlay Academy League.
Mm-hmm.
And he's from my memory, he would always put up many kills, and similar to Jimmy, his story, like standing out on a lesser good team is really hard, because it's impossible to look good when you're losing all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But same case for Adex as for Jimmy, like they were standing out on their teams.
Yeah. I had a bunch of questions like regarding the different players, but you kind of answered them all, which is perfect. But I wanted to touch a bit actually on the opping role, because, you know, beforehand, I think you guys announced that you were trialing Camille, I think, and then you played with Zix from 7am and some officials as well. What's kind of going on with the op? Is it more that you like couldn't find the right fit initially, and now you're just trying out a few players? And what kind of brought you toward Adex in the end? Is it maybe his age, the fact that he has a bit more experience, having been in Academy League and all that?
Look, finding an AWP who's relatively unknown and unproven, because the idea of an Academy team is also like to pick some people who has talent and maybe hasn't been chosen for other teams and develop them. So yeah, the first player we played with was Kadim, who's from Czechoslovakia. I think it's called Czech Republic, yeah. And basically just saw him doing good in basic leagues, and he had no team experience prior to that. So it was kind of a chance, knowing what he could offer to a team environment. And I think after a couple of practice weeks, it was fairly easy to conclude, like, he's super skilled, but he has a hard time to adapt to the team environment. So actually we will just move on fairly quickly. And then we were still looking for an AWPer, and right now there are so limited options, in my opinion, because for one, he has to be like relatively young. He has to show me something that I've seen, something that caught my eye or the other players' eyes, and then he has to like have the right personality. And for young players, it's one of the hardest things to find, I think. Like young people who wants to develop, young people who wants to play the game, live it, breathe it, try to give their all in order to become like professional, have the right mindset to grow. So we tried out Sux, who I was watching the Philadelphia LAN.
Yeah.
And he had some standout performances against, I think, EG White, if they're called that, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just watching him playing those games, like, made me very excited. And so we decided to write to his organization and talk about a trial period for, I think 2 or 3 weeks. And we played the CCT event with him. And I think for Sux, who's also like, he's skilled, but you could feel like he has been on a uprise from the 7am team and performing in the ESEA Advanced League. But his time wasn't like quite right because he had school on the side, and I think it was hard for him to put in the extra hours that it requires to play on this level. But I still think like we tried really hard and gave him a proper chance, like playing the CCT tournament with him. But in the end, like there were some basics missing, which, yeah, like I said, the time wasn't now. But I think like he will be really good in the future. So yeah, now we're playing with Addicts. I think he has shown before in the WePlay Academy League as well. Like he's really skilled. He has the flair for the orb. It's a bit different style from what we're used to play with because he's super aggressive. And I think the rest of us has to adapt to it. Yeah, but how we got in contact with him, it was actually we were looking at all players again, and just to see like who's available, because okay, maybe it doesn't have to be like a 16 or 17-year-old. Maybe we need a little bit of an older guy who has some experience, who can maybe help Chris second call, and I think Addicts has contributed with the things that we expect of him, like controlling CT side, doing his things with the orb, help Chris call as well. So yeah.
All right. I also wanted to touch a bit on Jimmy for this season. I mean, we've always known he's like one of the brightest players in Finland for sure. But it's not like he had bad seasons previously, obviously, but he's really looking good this season. Why do you think that is? Is it maybe just, he has more space to shine in this new roster? Is it a matter of the roles? Do you think he's just maybe more comfortable now?
I think there are more sides to it. One of the things is that the previous roster, he didn't play the roles that he would normally perform in, which we knew when we grabbed him, because we just had to get Jimmy, and then we will figure it out. So right now he's playing all the roles that he wants to play, and as you can see, it's paying off. But I also think like he's working really hard on his individual level, and also doing something off the server. I know our sports psychologist is working hard with him. Like they spend a lot of time together, and he has changed his focus for like, okay, I have to perform to a focus that is called I just have to grow. Because he's only 16, he has all the time in the world to become a Tier 1 player, in my opinion. Has a lot of good qualities in game and out of the game, and is very likable by everyone. So I think it's just a matter of time before maybe Jimmy is playing on a higher level.
For sure. I mean, the talent is definitely there. I wanted to talk a bit about this season now. Given that this is kind of a new team, what are the expectations? I think you guys are 5-2 right now, if I'm not mistaken. Is that kind of where you thought you'd be? And, what are you aiming for season 6?
Yeah. I don't think we can compare ourselves to the previous roster. Has won all the titles, because clearly they were on another level. I think our expectations for this season is that not necessarily about winning, but showcasing ourselves that, okay, we have the level to play in this league, and also take the fact in mind that we are trialing out a new Auber who we had like 1 or 2 practice day before WePlay. Also set our maybe expectation a bit lower, but we all feel like individually we are one of the stronger teams, at least in our group. I haven't followed the other group so much, But of course, winning is always important, and we will try our best to at least reach playoffs, which is like a goal that we have set on the way. Looking at how our game has gone.
Maybe this is a bit hard to answer, but when could fans expect maybe to know what the new MOUZ NXT roster will be like when it's finalized? Because I believe only Chris was permanently signed, right? But everyone else is still on trial.
Yeah, from the outside, everyone is still on trial. Soon there will be some news, is what I can say. But when, I cannot say.
Darn. But good news then. Soon. That's exciting. I wanted to speak about you a bit personally, because you're still quite new to the coaching role. I think you just started coaching at the start of this year with MOUZ NXT. Did you face kind of anything that you weren't expecting, new challenges perhaps that are different to that of being just a player? And maybe what have you learned from the experience so far?
I think coming in with my background, I was a teacher prior to this in the elementary school, so I've dealt with a lot of things with kids. Right now they are a little bit older, and I think from the previous roster, I think hearing everybody out in any scenario that could occur in a bad way was something that how should I phrase it, like was something that was a bit difficult for me to put together. Like, okay, now I have to hear this player out. Okay, what's he saying about this player? But in general, I think having some pedagogical competences really important for a coach, and I can feel like it has made my job so much easier in some scenarios, because there will be some tensions on the way in a team, and it's just about like how are we dealing with it. And I learned a lot from a previous roster with Sertian, Shuhei, and all the others. And it's not like we were talking behind our backs or something like this, but we had to talk about like in-game problems, and how can we demand something of one of the other without like being an asshole, to say the least. So yeah, I think like facilitating conversation and so has also like something that I've developed in that sense.
I see. And now, as a closing question, I love asking all the players, but I was curious to ask you as well. How did you come up with your nickname, TOBIZ?
Yeah, a bit of creative one. I think when I was younger, I played 1.6 with my little brother's friends, and they would always call me TOBIZ, just with an S instead of a Z. And I wasn't much of a like nicknaming myself something alien killer or something like this when I was young, so I just stick with TOBIZ, and to look cool I made it all capital and just put a Z on it.
All right, I like it. That's a good story. Well, that's about all the time we have. Best of luck for the rest of the season. I hope you guys are able to make playoffs, and who knows what happens. It's still possible to reach that throne, but I think it's clear that you guys have reasonable expectations. So yeah, best of luck. Anything you want to say to the fans before we go?
Thank you for the call, and I'll hope we exceed our expectation and have something to show for the playoffs. Thanks to all the fans who's cheering for us, and take care and see you.